There are thoughts that insist on lingering, feelings that seep into the silence of the mind, and presences that, even in absence, continue to echo in the heart. When you can't stop thinking about someone, it may seem like merely an echo of longing or an unresolved desire, but what if it's something deeper? What if it's a calling? Perhaps it isn't just the stubborn memory of a bond. Perhaps it is the universe whispering something you have yet to grasp. Deep psychology, especially Carl Jung's vision, invites us to look beyond the obvious, listening with the soul to what the mind cannot translate. In this script, we'll plunge into this all-too-common and powerful psychic experience, revealing what it might truly mean for your journey of inner transformation. If this theme resonates with you, comment below. I am ready to hear what life wants to show me. From Carl Jung's perspective, when someone becomes a constant presence in our thoughts, it signals that something beyond the rational is at work. Jung believed our psyche operates through symbols, images, and synchronicities, manifestations that reveal unconscious content striving to emerge into consciousness. Thinking incessantly about someone can be a symbolic form of contact with aspects of our own soul, especially those we have projected onto that person. The concept of projection is essential here. Often, what we see in another, especially a striking figure like a passionate crush or intense connection, are parts of ourselves we have yet to recognize. Idealization, obsession, or even anguish can reflect the shadow, that unconscious side of our personality, containing traits we've repressed or failed to integrate. Jung also spoke of the process of individuation, the journey of integrating conscious and unconscious toward the wholeness of the self. When someone dominates our thoughts so persistently, this phenomenon may be tied to the soul's call to look inward and investigate which psychic contents are being activated. Often, that other person represents the anima or animus, the feminine or masculine archetype within us, that we project onto significant relationships. In this case, the universe does not speak through logic, but through a symbolic language. Therefore, this insistent thought can be a profound invitation to self-knowledge. It's not only about the person themselves, but about what they evoke in you: desires, wounds, hopes, and paths to healing. Yes, the universe may be speaking, but in the language of the soul, not of reason. When someone settles in our mind so persistently, we often believe it's out of love, desire, or affinity. However, under Carl Jung's analytical psychology, this fixation can have much deeper roots. It may result from a psychic projection. Projection is an unconscious mechanism by which we transfer internal aspects we haven't yet recognized as our own onto others. When you can't stop thinking about him, perhaps what's happening isn't really about him, but about what he represents within you. By projecting, we hand over to the other person qualities, emotions, virtues, or shadows we haven't integrated into our consciousness. They become a symbolic mirror, reflecting not who they truly are, but what you need to see in yourself. That's why the insistent thought isn't about the real person, but about the symbol they have become in your psyche. It's very common for these projections to focus on figures with whom we've had intense connections, unresolved loves, platonic passions, or relationships abruptly cut off. The intensity of that person's presence in your mind is proportional to the symbolic power they carry. Jung said that the more unconscious the content, the more power it holds over us. And what is more unconscious than idealized love, unlived or misunderstood? The danger of projection lies in the illusion. When you believe the other is responsible for the emotion you feel, you miss the chance to realize you're standing before a portal to self-discovery. The insistence on thinking about him may conceal a deep call to examine your own needs, desires, fears of abandonment or intimacy. He becomes a canvas onto which you project what you haven't yet recognized in yourself. This is where consciousness begins to act. The first step to lifting the projection is to ask questions. What exactly do I see in this person? Which emotions does he stir in me that seem larger than reality? What is this fixation trying to tell me about myself? The answer to these questions isn't found in external observations, but in attentive inner listening. When we remove the symbolic charge we've projected, the person in question no longer occupies that hypnotic space. We begin to see them as they truly are, human with virtues and flaws. And more importantly, we start to see ourselves with greater clarity. This is the movement of consciousness expanding, the shadow being illuminated, and individuation beginning to take shape. A mind that revolves around someone isn't necessarily in love. It may be desperately seeking to integrate something it has rejected, ignored, or repressed. In this context, The other becomes the unconscious's unwitting messenger. Therefore, when he inhabits your thoughts with such intensity, perhaps it's time to ask, what does he represent within me that I haven't yet accepted? The answer may reveal hidden aspects of your own being, the need to love and be loved, the wound of abandonment, the fear of loneliness, the desire for authentic connection, or even the impulse to awaken to a new phase of life. Thus, the constant thought ceases to be a mental prison and transforms into a golden opportunity to know yourself better, heal old pains, and integrate forgotten parts of yourself. If he is in your mind, perhaps it isn't him who matters, but what he evokes. In that sense, it isn't obsession. It is an invitation to consciousness. In Jungian psychology, archetypes are universal, timeless forms inhabiting the collective unconscious, shaping our perceptions, desires, and relationships. When someone becomes the center of our thoughts so constantly, we may be under the sway of the archetype of idealized love, a powerful psychic force that transcends logic, time, and even the objective reality of the relationship. At this archetypal level, love isn't directed at a real person, but at an inner image seeking manifestation in the outer world. This archetype is often projected intensely onto people who awaken something inexplicable in us, a sense of destiny, an instant connection, a certainty without proof. It is precisely this force that creates the deepest unconscious traps, because it makes us believe we have found the chosen one, the soulmate, or the love of our life. The other becomes the vessel of an often unattainable ideal, a reflection of what we unconsciously wish to find in ourselves: completeness, safety, transcendence. Behind this idealization lies a real risk of disconnecting from reality. The other is placed on a pedestal while their flaws and limitations are ignored or reinterpreted through the lens of fantasy. This disconnection fuels suffering because the object of our idealization will hardly match the internal image we've projected. Conflict arises from the gap between the real and the symbolic, between the human being and the myth we've constructed about them. The trap deepens when this idealized love activates old emotional wounds, childhood rejections, emotional deprivations, or lack of recognition. The archetype connects with these internal pains and, once projected, makes us relive the hope that, this time, everything will be different. The person in question then becomes a promise of healing, emotional redemption. That is why they become impossible to forget, not for who they are, but for what they represent. Jung also warned that the more emotionally charged an activated archetype is, the harder it is to discern between the real and the symbolic. The rational mind loses strength in the face of the unconscious's psychic energy, which explains why, even in the face of absence, disinterest, or the end of contact with the person, the thought does not cease. What remains active is the internal bond with the archetypal image, and this image needs to be recognized and integrated for the cycle to dissolve. The way out isn't to reject the feeling or force yourself to forget, but to delve into what it reveals about you. Which part of you is demanding attention through this fixation? What does this idealized love say about your beliefs regarding love? Which expectations do you still carry from childhood, culture, or past experiences? Working with the archetype of idealized love requires the courage to let go of illusion and see yourself with greater compassion and truth. It means understanding that the other isn't responsible for filling our internal gaps. They merely awaken something that was already within us, waiting to be recognized. True wholeness won't come from perfect love, but from integrating the parts of ourselves we've rejected, forgotten, or fragmented. In the end, idealized love isn't a mistake. It is a map, a mirror pointing to your soul and saying, here is something important about you. When you heed this call with awareness, you transform suffering into growth, obsession into wisdom, and unreachable love into a portal of self-transformation. There are moments when the mind refuses to forget someone, and along with this insistence come signs, coincidences, unlikely encounters, vivid dreams or messages that seem written just for you. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, these events aren't mere coincidences. They are manifestations of synchronicity, external happenings aligning meaningfully with internal states, despite no obvious causal link. When you cannot stop thinking about someone, and simultaneously reality begins to speak about that person, symbolically, the universe may be revealing something crucial to the soul. Synchronicity is a bridge between conscious and unconscious, between the individual and the whole. It shouldn't be interpreted literally as a clear-cut message, but understood as a symbolic language connecting us with life's mystery. Thinking insistently about someone and encountering their name, image, or related elements in various situations doesn't necessarily mean they belong in your life, but that the psychic image they represent is striving to emerge into your awareness with force. The universe doesn't speak with words. It manifests through patterns, symbols, and repetitions that challenge us to look beyond logic and access the soul's profound content. The soul's call isn't a shout, but a whisper, echoing in different forms. A phrase that moves you, a book appearing at just the right moment, a dream carrying an unknown truth, a déjà vu that makes time dissolve. All of this can relate to that figure occupying your mind, not because they are your ultimate destination, but because they are the channel through which something greater is trying to emerge in you. Jung saw synchronicity as an expression of the self, the psyche's regulating and organizing center, which manifests to guide the individuation process. When external life reflects your inner life, it signals that you are on the threshold of a transformative insight. The constant thought of someone combined with these symbolic signs may be how the self finds you, leading you to a deeper truth about who you are and what you need to integrate. However, caution is necessary to avoid confusing synchronicity with disguised desire. The unconscious can use any figure as its instrument, but it's up to consciousness to discern what is projection, what is archetype, and what is a genuine movement of integration. The other may represent the animus, the masculine principle in your psyche, seeking to manifest not as a real man, but as an energy you need to develop: assertiveness, presence, action, clarity. Often, when we think incessantly about someone and experience related synchronicities, we face a psychic transition. Something must die for something else to be born. Attachment to the external figure may only be the surface of a much deeper process, the birth of a new stage of consciousness, where love ceases to be a desire directed outward and becomes a path of reconnection with the soul itself. This communication from the universe, when understood with emotional maturity, can bring healing, insight, and liberation. But to do so, you must learn to listen with the symbolic heart. The one that knows everything happening outside reflects what pulses within. Synchronicity doesn't confirm desires, it awakens truths. Therefore, if he appears in your thoughts and the world seems to whisper his name at the same time, perhaps it isn't about him, but about you, about a part of you that wants to be heard, understood, embraced. And that is where transformation begins, not because of the other, but because of what is finally awakening in your soul. Thinking intensely about someone may seem, at first glance, a sign of love, attachment, or need. However, through the lens of analytical psychology, this experience can also mark the beginning of something much deeper, the individuation journey. For Carl Jung, to individuate is to become who you truly are, an integration process between the psyche's various parts, where unconscious and conscious align toward wholeness. In this process, love, especially the kind that feels uncontrollable or irrational, can transform into a powerful avenue for self-knowledge and healing. The love that seems fixed on someone specific, even when the relationship never materializes or has ended, can serve as a catalyst. It triggers intense emotions, activates deep complexes, and awakens dormant regions of the soul. It's as if the other person, even from afar or in silence, touches an essential point of your being. That point is precisely where transformation begins, where pain, desire, lack, and hope converge to open the way for a new self-awareness. Jung understood that true love confronts us with what we have yet to know about ourselves. When someone won't leave your mind, they may symbolize a psychic aspect longing to be integrated. And integration doesn't mean possessing or keeping the other by your side, but embracing within yourself what that figure represents. It might be the yearning for authenticity, the courage to be vulnerable, the need to assert yourself, or the recognition of your own capacity to love deeply. In this context, love shifts from seeking another to reconciling with yourself. Instead of asking why he doesn't want you, or why he abandoned you, or why you still can't forget him, the focus moves to what you haven't yet embraced in your inner story. The insistent thought becomes a mirror of what you need to hear within: insecurities, repressed desires, unresolved traumas, or even forgotten gifts. The individuation process demands this courageous dive. You must go beyond the surface of romantic obsession and touch the core of your own being. By doing so, you begin to realize that he is not the end, but the means. He is not the destination, but the messenger. His constant presence in your thoughts is a call to exit emotional dependence and enter a state of presence with yourself, of intimacy with your own soul. At this level, the love archetype shifts from lack to fullness. It becomes an energy guiding personal flourish, shadow integration, and a deeper relationship with the self, the core of your being. And this love, when lived this way, may or may not manifest outwardly. The truth is, once you are whole, the other loses the power to dominate you emotionally. The mind quiets and the heart finds rest, not in possession, but in understanding. This is the point at which obsessive thought naturally dissolves. It's no longer needed, because the content it represented has already been embraced, observed, understood. The figure that once seemed essential becomes symbolic, and the true encounter takes place, the encounter with yourself. Individuation is humanity's soul's great aim, and often it begins with a love that seems impossible, with an absence that hurts, with a thought that won't cease. These are portals of transformation. When you accept crossing them, not with despair but with awareness, you discover that the most important love isn't the one you receive from another, but the one you awaken by becoming whole. When someone occupies your thoughts constantly, it isn't just about longing or desire, it's about meaning. Through Carl Jung's analytical psychology, we understand that this kind of experience is not a malfunction of the mind, but a call of the soul. Psychic projection reveals hidden aspects. Idealized love activates deep archetypal images. Synchronicity points to symbolic communication between you and the universe. And the individuation process turns this inner journey into a path of healing and integration. Thinking of him, feeling his absence, dreaming of that connection, all of this can, in truth, be a bridge between who you are today and who you are becoming. It's not about understanding the other, but about comprehending what he awakens in you. And by doing this with courage and awareness, you transform repetitive thought into wisdom, attachment into freedom, and love into self-knowledge. If this message resonated with your soul, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone also seeking meaning. And don't forget, your next step of transformation may lie in the video appearing on your screen right now. Watch, feel, allow yourself to awaken,